I call to order this meeting of the Washington County Board of Education. We have all members present. We have a quorum. At this time, I'd like to introduce Madison Booth, who is a fourth grade student at Hancock Elementary. Madison is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Hello again, Madison. Madison, do you have some folks with you this evening that you would like to introduce to us?
And I have my principal, Mrs. Guest.
Your principal, Mrs. Guest, welcome. It's nice to have you with us. Thank you for bringing Madison this evening. Madison, how are things at Hancock Elementary these days?
Good.
They're good. Did you know I used to teach at Hancock Elementary?
No.
I spent a lot of good years there. It's a great school, a great community.
Oh, not elementary.
Pardon?
Not elementary, but Steve Boyd taught it.
No, I was at the high
He
school.
was
senior
across
high
the
school.
road. He was over there with the big kids. So what do you like best at Hancock Elementary? Do you have a favorite subject?
Reading.
Oh, got my heart. I'm a reader. Do you have a favorite author?
No.
No, you just like to read?
Yeah.
That's great. And what do you do when you're not reading and when you're not doing your schoolwork? Do you have some hobbies?
I like softball.
Softball?
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I see you have a brother.
Yeah.
Is he at the elementary school too? Is he across the road at the middle school?
He actually goes to E. Russell Hicks.
Oh, he
Middle School.
does. Okay. So he's in town. Well, Madison, I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have anything that they would like to ask you.
Okay.
Sometimes they have a question. Colleagues?
Do you have any pets?
Yeah. I have fish.
You have fish?
Yes.
What are their names?
We haven't named them actually.
The no-name fish.
Yeah.
Have you had it a long
Fish
time?
1 and Fish 2?
Well, we have our one fish, our girl fish, had babies. So,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we have lots of fish.
So that you name.
Yeah.
Well, Madison, thank you so much for being here this evening, and we wish you all the best in your studies at Hancock Elementary School.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the approval of tonight's agenda.
Move for approval?
Thank you, Mr. Pickford. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any discussion of the agenda? All those in favor of approval of the agenda? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes and the student member concurs. We'll move to the approval of the minutes.
Mrs. President, I move for the approval of the work session minutes dated October 1st, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Gassard. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Any additions or corrections to that set of minutes? No? All those in favor of approval? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes and the student member concurs.
For the approval of the closed session minutes dated October 1st, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Gaspard. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any additions or corrections to the minutes of the closed session on October 1st? All those in favor of approval? We have 7 affirmative votes. We
Madam
have a-
President, I move for the approval of the business meeting minutes dated October 1st, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Gaspard. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any additions or corrections to the minutes of the business meeting for October 1st? All those in favor? All right, we have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs. Is that it, Mr. Gessford? That's it. All righty, thank you very much. We'll move on to the Superintendent's Report. Dr. Michael.
Thank you, President Williams. Tonight, we have two proclamations and recognitions we want to have the board give to staff. The first, I believe, is our School Lunch Week, which is National School Lunch Week this week. Mike Emley's going to share that with us, and following that, Brian Johnson's going to share with us about National School Bus Safety Week. So I think we're going to have the board go ahead and come down front. These are short presentations. I think board members have the proclamations that we have available, and I'll invite Mr. Emley to the microphone.
Okay. In recognition of National School Lunch Week and the hard work and dedication of food nutrition services staff that feed the students of Washington County each day, I'm honored to present this proclamation. Whereas the National School Lunch Program has served our nation admirably for over 60 years through advanced practices and nutrition education, and whereas the National School Lunch Program is dedicated to the health and well-being of our nation's children, and whereas the National School Lunch Program has been joined through the years by many other excellent child feeding programs, and there is evidence of continued need for nutrition education and awareness of the value of school nutrition programs. Therefore, be it proclaimed that October 14th through the 18th, 2019, is observed by Washington County Public Schools as National School Lunch Week, presented this 15th day of October 2019. Tonight, I'm honored to have Mary Hickson, Food Service Assistant at Williamsport Elementary, representing the department and accepting the proclamation. This is Mary's 22nd year with Food Nutrition Services, and it's worth noting that Mary had perfect attendance for the past several years, along with 13 others that had perfect attendance last year. Mary?
Good evening. On behalf of the 200 bus drivers, attendants, and crossing guards that get our kids to and from school safely each and every day, I would like to read this proclamation in their honor. Whereas the exemplary staff performance exhibited each day by school bus drivers on the roads of Washington County ensures the highest level of safety for students and the public, and whereas the Washington County Public Schools Transportation Department is committed to providing a safe environment for the school bus riders who travel daily on the roadways, and whereas everyone is reminded to keep a watchful eye for students going to and from school and bus stops, and to take extra precautions around students and school buses, and whereas motorists are always to be prepared to stop for school buses with flashing amber lights and to stop for school buses with flashing red lights. Therefore, be it proclaimed that October 21st through 25th, 2019 is observed by Washington County Public Schools as National School Bus Safety Week, presented this 15th day of October 2019. Here with me today, representing the 200 bus drivers, attendants, and crossing guards is bus driver Kevin Malott. Kevin has been driving for us coming up on almost 9 years, and also it's important to note he's had perfect attendance for all of that time. Thank you, Kevin.
Part of my schedule for next week is bus inspections, so I think we do that as part of National School Safety Week. So I always look forward to spending some time with the staff on those adventures. That's all I have for this time. I have a few comments a little bit later on the program. Thank you.
This is the part of the meeting where we have public comment, and I do have 5 individuals who have signed up in advance. It's not necessary to sign up in advance, so I'll open the floor to anyone else following the remarks of the 5th person who has signed up. I'd like to read from policy KD, which deals with procedures for meetings. Each person wishing to address the Board of Education is encouraged, but not required, to sign up prior to the meeting and may address any topic concerning Washington County Public Schools, except personnel or student matters which clearly identify an individual or individuals. Each speaker may speak for up to 5 minutes. Board Member Bickford will be our timer, and he has cards to show. He'll show you a
30 seconds left, it's yellow, and then if you could wrap up when the red stop sign comes up.
Okay, so those are the ground rules. And the first person I have on the list is Stephen Detro. Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening.
You want to have a seat? Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Stephen Gordon Detro, and thank you for inviting me to come here. I am a special education student from Washington County Public School, obviously, and I'm here to speak to you. I've wanted to share my experience for a very long time, and for those who are afraid to speak for themselves. And I've had the most amazing relations with my teachers and friends and the county, and I've just had a wonderful life here, and I'd love to thank everyone for that. As a student with autism and ADHD, I've also struggled with some things, such as being called a retard or sped, also struggling with peers, and just struggling with teachers as well. Sometimes they don't get me, they don't understand how I feel, and that's always rough. It's hard for me to deal with issues that are also to be taken lightly when other people think I'm extremely overreacting. I often lose my papers or lose track of things. Last year, I was assaulted by a student because I threw a pen because everyone was chanting me too, but still, that's obviously no excuse. I just want to stand up for all the students who are also like me in that way. And when I reported it to my vice principal, they did not believe me. And as I told them about other incidents, they just said, shrugged it off. But when the video came out of my assault, when it was filmed and shared on social media by my peers, I was upset, of course, and happy that some people would believe me. And I also shared this with the Herald Mail and gave them my insight about it. Another thing happened last year was I made a slideshow for Autism Awareness Month, and I was very ready, and I really was looking forward to sharing it with my peers, but the admin wouldn't let me share that because it was putting my diagnosis on in front. I don't mind about my diagnosis. I want to share it with people so that they can understand how me and others are feeling. But I'm sure that would have made people think differently about it and possibly stopped the assault from happening. I'm very grateful that the Board of Ed has a student member, such as yourself. And I also believe that there should possibly be a special education student so that they can understand and the insights of all other special education students. Thank you for allowing me to speak and for taking up your time. And I hope that we can make the school a safer place and work well together. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. The next person I have on the list is Tykira Dawson. Did I pronounce that correctly? Is it Tykira?
Tykeria Dawson.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, I'm Tykeria Dawson, 17. I go to Antietam Academy. I'm here to talk to you about bullying. I'm not a big fan. I don't appreciate it. And I feel that our social workers are being bullied by a lot of people right here. I feel like they're scared to speak because they're scared about their job. And kids that come to them and get bullied aren't being treated right. And I was recently informed by someone that you guys can walk in and fire my principal without any notice if you feel that his job is not being done right. I feel that it's very wrong that our staff can't do anything about it. About a week ago, there were kids that were being bullied, and I felt that I wanted to do something about it, and I was told that I couldn't. So I told someone, and they didn't do anything about it either. A year ago at our school, well, my freshman year, a boy killed himself because he was being bullied. Every day I walk in there wondering why wasn't something done about it. He went into the counselor's office and talked to people every day, and nothing was done. I don't appreciate it. I'm not saying your jobs aren't being done right, because they are. You're doing everything you can. But if someone's being bullied, the counselor should be able to speak up and do something about it. But they're too worried about their own job to protect someone else's life. Kids every day are taking their life. You guys say that bullying is zero tolerance, but I think you guys are being one of the biggest bullies of all in our school. I don't think it's right, and I think you guys should change that. I'm not coming at anyone specifically. I'm saying that kids need to be treated right, and you guys need to treat your staff members right. I'm only 17. I don't know your specific jobs or anything, but I don't think bullying is allowed. And I'm pretty sure that it says somewhere in your handbook that there is no tolerance for bullying. And I was just here to address that I don't think bullying is okay. And it should never be allowed in any part of the school or any school system at all. And when someone comes to you to report it and you can't do nothing about it, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to. Our staff members shouldn't have to bite their tongue because they're scared of all of you. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out of there. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn Sterling. Hello.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Sterling. I'm a concerned parent, grandparent, mentor, and community advocate. And I too want to address the issue of bullying in schools. I did read part of a policy handbook that I received that it says any kind of act of bullying is supposed to be zero tolerance, and that staff or whoever gets the report is to report it immediately. They may be reporting it immediately to the next person in the chain of command, However, it's not being reported to parents. I've just talked with numerous parents and students that are finding out after the fact, sometime weeks later, that an incident happened at school. I've also unfortunately had the opportunity of going to doctor's appointments and even to the ER with parents whose child was hurt at school, and they find out about it the day later because the arm's hurting or their gut's hurting from being punched, and they say it happened at school, but nothing was ever reported. So I don't understand what that word immediately means if it's not being, I know what it means, but apparently it's not followed down through the chain. I would really like to see that stopped in your policy handbook immediately. My perspective and somebody else's may be different. Does that mean immediately that day or immediately in 2 weeks? That needs to change. We say we want parents to be involved with our youth at school, but that should cover all aspects, bullying, grades, whatever. I believe that also when a child has to go to the ER or to a doctor, I encourage parents to say where the incident happened. If it's not in reports at school, then if there should ever have to be any kind of legal action, the doctor will have that record, the hospital will have the record, that this is why my child was, this is where my child said this happened. I think there just needs to be better open communication when a child comes and says, I've been bullied. I know teachers have a lot on their plates. If they had, and I don't mean just someone, he called me a name, or he's sitting too close to me, she touched me. I'm talking about the physical acts of bullying. This is serious, and as Tykeria had said, I've also spoken with parents and youth, mostly the youth, because children will tell you just about anything you want to know, youth that have committed suicide, but the parents, nobody wants that written in the obituary or known, but their child had been bullied right here in Washington County. And I don't know what it's going to take. I know we don't have a 7 on your side and all those things that the city has, that when something happens that you can go to and it makes the news. Washington County, close-knit leaders, close-knit everything, so it stays within. But this is a serious, serious problem, and it needs to get out before it makes national news that somebody is terribly hurt. We have teachers going to school hurt now, and this is another subject, in bullying. Youth, elementary kids, behavioral issues. It's not the bullying part of it, but apparently all behavioral issues don't always mean that it's a chemical imbalance. They could be bullying because they were bullied. So we have teachers coming to school trying to do the best they can, but they can't do very much. Their hands are tied. We have room clears. Okay, I don't know how often that happens in Washington County, but to allow someone to come in and destroy a room while the other students have to sit outside, taxpayers have to spend more money buying equipment and everything that goes on, that issue needs to be addressed. But again, let's start with our students. Let's protect them. If we say that students deserve an education, they're there to be protected, do we have to do whatever it takes? More resource officers. We definitely need more special education teachers. We need more behavioral specialists in the schools. Our children are coming from so much more than back in the day in my generation. So please do what you can. Don't be stoic in your looks and what you're thinking about. We need action. This Washington County needs action before we make front page like West Virginia and all the other places. Things happen, but nobody reported it. Thank you.
Angie Aldridge. I apologize for butchering your first name. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Angie Aldridge. I'm the mother of 3 children, 2 of which attend WCPS schools. And I'm here tonight to represent CCAC, the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee, donning these fancy orange shirts. As you know, the role of CCAC is to make recommendations and give feedback to the public school system regarding special education. As awareness of our group has spread and our numbers have grown, we have become a sounding board for parents, staff, and teachers who wish to advocate for change. To that end, we are committed to listening to our special education community. There exist concerns regarding the escalation of behaviors, subsequent injuries among students and staff, as others have referenced, bullying, and increase in behavioral needs within the county. When it comes to placing students, well, first of all, let me back up a second. So as a committee, we have been meeting with parents and concerned citizens and staff who want their concerns but want them raised anonymously. Many of them are fearful of their jobs. And so I'm going to share some quotes from you from staff within WCPS. When it comes to placing students in programs that are better suited for their needs, we as teachers and case managers are being told repeatedly there is no room at the inn. Short observations are not adequate to write effective intervention plans appropriate for our most intense students. As a paraprofessional, I feel disposable. It is the paraprofessional's own fault if they get hurt. 5 of our 6 special education program staff were in tears this week. Students are not ready for the rigorous academic standards when they are dealing with trauma and subsequent behaviors. We need programs and initiatives to teach social and emotional skills that are required for students to be able to learn. We need to consider program caps. Many of our classrooms with high-need students are overcrowded with no additional staff support. And we need to consider the students' needs first, group based on ability, and not let transportation dictate placement. Parents have also shared their experiences. The following are messages sent to me personally regarding issues families have encountered in the county. From first grade, I enlisted the aid of 8 boys in my son's class to ensure his safety. We gave up and we now homeschool. The only way to get what we needed was to hire an attorney. I was told it was my son's fault that he got hurt. I've also received photos of injuries. Based on feedback we have received, ideas generated from both families and staff, as well as information obtained during our school visits this past school year, our executive CCAC committee will be formulating our recommendations and presenting them in the very near future. The last quote I'll share with you comes from psychologist Ashley Warner. Beneath every behavior is feeling, and beneath every feeling is a need. And when we meet the need rather than focus on the behavior, we begin to deal with the cause, not the symptom. We have to stop focusing all of our energy on putting out the fires and look at the source of the blaze. And this starts with understanding our students' needs, providing more than adequate levels of support, and backing our hardworking teachers and special education staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan Barrett. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Michael, and community. My name is Megan Barrett, and I'm the proud parent of 3 children, all of whom attend Washington County Public Schools, 2 in our special ed programs. While I'm obviously involved with several organizations, tonight I come to you simply as a parent. In my 12 combined classroom years with my children, I've seen some of the best that WCPS has to offer, and some with room to improve. I would like to take a few minutes and share some of my experiences and concerns with you this evening. The process by which parents seek an IEP or an individualized education plan can be extraordinarily frustrating. In my oldest son's case, it took nearly 3 full school years to get past the hard no of even testing him. So from kindergarten to 3rd grade, he struggled unnecessarily. And the sad thing about that is the no wasn't coming from bad people, but instead well-intended, caring people who argued that they could meet his needs off the books, or that they were protecting him from being labeled. In the beginning of that 3rd year, I was called in for a meeting and handed a 504 plan allowing for quote-unquote preferential seating and sent on my way. No discussion, just handed a document. And after trudging through all that, it was hard for me to feel like a valued member of the team when I finally got to the IEP table. So I often hear from other parents that they are told how things are going to be, much like my 504 experience, rather than asked to contribute to the discussion and construction of an IEP for their child. It would be beneficial to all, especially our children, if we put more into becoming a cooperative and collaborative team to support them. My son has now been settled in the Summit program for the past 3 years, and it has been a great opportunity for him. One of the biggest perks we found in the Summit program is the in-house social worker that it provides. My son occasionally needs immediate help addressing a concern that pops up, and having that resource eliminates many, many meltdowns. With all the difficulties that our student population faces in this county today, I wonder how much good could be done by more social workers being available to our gen ed students. It seems to me that having that type of resource readily available would allow students to get support working through issues and help us to circumvent some of the discipline and bullying problems, addressing the cause, teaching empathy, and implementing restorative practices rather than just responding to the situation. Another problem I keep hearing about is the lack of staff. I hear reports of classes desperately in need of paras, or paras being pulled from programs to cover teachers' sick days in encore classes, or in my daughter's case, a para being assigned as the only adult in the room for a day when her pre-K teacher and para were out. Paras are such an important part of making schools run smoothly. Pulling them here and there makes their job harder than necessary. Pulling them from program classes and leaving those shorthanded only opens the door to incidents and injuries in their absence. Once you have the staff in place, the next hurdle seems to be properly training them. Many of these positions require special skills to be most effective. I regularly hear from teachers and paras how they get redundant or repetitive training, but lack access to PD that targets their individual classroom needs. I would love to see WCPS gather input from administrators, teachers, and ESP staff in each building to assess their school's needs and develop trainings to suit those needs. And one last resource I'd like to highlight is the value that BCBAs, or Board Certified Behavior Analysts, bring to a classroom. My youngest son receives private ABA therapy, so I see firsthand how many tools a BCBA has. The trouble is, they're not one-size-fits-all tools. Behavior strategies need to be child-specific, and beyond that, they need to be fluid to evolve with the child to be successful. I believe that we could benefit from more direct BCBA involvement in the classroom, including observing in a variety of settings to identify triggers, helping teachers to recognize oncoming behaviors and how to diffuse them before they impact the class, rather than something like the quote-unquote ignore attention-seeking behavior solution. It's not that it isn't sound advice, but it's not always the best advice. And with BCBAs on staff, we have the resources to be better. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to speak during public comment? No? Thank you to all speakers this evening. We appreciate you sharing your concerns, sharing your insights, sharing your experiences. This time we'll have board member response to public comment.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone that came out tonight, and especially for the people that spoke and the students, because I know that's not easy to get up here and speak. I agree with a lot of what you said. I wish that you would all show up at a county commissioners meeting in your orange and bring your thoughts and your ideas so that they would understand the needs of Washington County Public Schools. I think that would be a great thing to do. So if you get a chance, talk to the county commissioners. That's where we get a lot of our money, and we need more. And we'd like for you to show them why we need more. So thank you very much for coming.
Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Bickford?
I echo Ms. Murray's comments to thank each and every one of you. I found your insights to be very helpful, and I'm glad to know that the CCAC committee, as you often attend, is very active, and I look forward to the recommendations that you send our way. I think when I ran for school board, discipline was certainly one of my, and bullying was one of my big concerns as well. And I would say that I think that we've made some strides, but there's always room to grow, and I know that our staff is working very hard on that. I was really pleased with this past year's budget. We can give you specific numbers, but we were able to add several staff members that we didn't think we'd have the funding for initially to help with this problem. I'm also really appreciative of the feedback about the behavioral analysts. We had an open work session today at 2, where we talked about some of the different options that they have for handling discipline, and that was one of the ones that they said is relatively new positions, so the feedback that you give on how those positions are going and how they're helpful is helpful to us. And I'm also encouraged by the fact that last week, three of us were at the Maryland Association of Boards of Education conference in Annapolis. And I will tell you that the number one topic was the issues that you are talking about today. So that was 3 days of people at very high levels throughout the state of Maryland talking about the issues that you presented today. So I think you're going to see some positive changes. It takes a long time for issues like this to work its way up through the halls of the legislature, and I think you're going to see some changes. We've already seen some changes, but I think you're going to see some more coming your way. So thank you all for coming tonight.
Excuse me.
Yes, Mr.
Do
Reinhardt.
we have, Dr. Michael, do we have a representative or a liaison from our special ed department in the CCAT?
Jeff.
Dr. Pugh attends regularly, Jeff Gladhill attends regularly. I believe we have some other people attend the CCAC meeting itself.
Okay.
I don't know about other subcommittees of the CCAC, but I know that we're invited to attend the CCAC committee.
One thing I'd like to say, and I apologize, everything we've heard, I know I've heard numerous things that you guys have been saying. The one thing that struck me was a young lady who spoke eloquently and was passionate about, and I apologize, I can't remember your name. Okay. You said something that scared me, that somehow you said that you believe that the Board of Education can walk in and fire your principal, and that, there are people on your staff that are, I don't know if they're telling you or telling somebody that, they fear for their jobs if they speak up. And that may well be true, but I will tell you, we can't do that. We cannot walk in and fire a teacher or a principal or anybody else. We have one employee, and it's the gentleman sitting in the middle there. Dr. Michael is our only employee. We can make recommendations to him, or we can speak with him, and he will, share with us. I've never, ever heard him say, we're going to go in and fire somebody, or I'm going in to fire somebody. So, somebody is not giving you 100% accurate information. There may be people that feel that way, that are afraid. I'm not certain why they're afraid, but, that doesn't come from this group of 7 people. That's not what we do, nor can we do that. So I just wanted to let you know I appreciate what you said, and like I said, you're passionate, and I love that. And we've got a lot of work to do. We know that, as does our staff. This has become an increasingly difficult job for everybody, from parents up through the superintendent of schools and the community and everyone else. We know there's problems. We're working on it. I don't think there is any quick fix. We'd like to get down to the bottom level and start working our way up to the top, as was mentioned. Sometimes we can do that, and sometimes we can't. Sometimes we have to put the fire out before we can get down to the bottom and find out what caused it. So keep plugging away. Keep giving us information, because that we need information. We like information. It's what we do this job for. No. Honest to goodness. No. Forgive me if you think you offended me. That's not the case. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that we don't do that. As the Board of Education does not fire people. We don't go into schools and say, this person's got to go. Can't do it. That is the job of our staff. If there's something comes up that happens, it needs to be remedied. So no, you did not offend me in any way. You keep fighting. Okay? I like that. I admire that. So thank you.
Stelman.
I just want to say that it's very difficult to get the message out that the school systems that operate in the United States today, these are not the schools of the 50s and 60s. I was a student in Washington County schools in the 50s and 60s. It's not the schools, today's schools are not the schools of the 70s or 80s or 90s or even up till 10 years ago. I was a teacher in those schools. But getting the message out to those who supply us with funds and other things, it's difficult to get that message out. I can assure you that after 3 years on this board, I feel that there's not a person in this system who doesn't want to deal with these problems and do a good job of dealing with them. I understand your impatience at times. As a teacher, I got impatient at times with things that weren't happening that I thought should have happened. But it'll take time, and I know we added a lot of social workers, as Mr. Bickford said, and the 2 behavior analysts and school psychologists we're trying to get. We've added special ed parapros, but it takes money to do that. So you have to help get the message out to those individuals who control the purse strings so that we can try to do those things and do them better. As for bullying, I don't think anyone tolerates bullying, but sometimes the issues are very complex, and sometimes I know things don't get reported, and officially, they get reported unofficially. But bullying is a serious problem. We have to do better.
Thank you, Mr. Stelman. Anyone else? Again, I thank you for coming forward and speaking. It's very difficult to sit and listen to those kinds of experiences. There's not a member up here that doesn't want our children safe, our staff safe in school, free from bullying, free from assaults. And what I heard being described were clearly assaults. And that's distressing. But as my colleagues have said, we're working towards solutions. We're doing our very best. I heard someone use the word empathy. I truly believe that that's what's missing. I think it's missing in our schools. I think it's missing in our community in Washington County. I think it's missing in our world. If we could all just be a little more empathetic and show a little more kindness, I think that would do great things for us. Be kind. And thank you for sharing. Dr. Michael, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
No, I think the board's described things very well. We appreciate the SEAC members and their dedication and support that they provide to us. They had a great resource fair last Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, and participated and supported that in a great way. We have added quite a few resources, as been indicated here tonight, just in this last budget. 10 counselors, combination of 10 counselors and social workers, 18 paraprofessionals just in this last budget. The expansion of 2 behavior teachers as well as 4 IAs on top of the 18 to deal with some needs that children have that are outside of special education. And we'll continue to add to those resources. We're hopeful that our pre-K initiative that we've expanded across the county is also helping to address the needs of special needs children, as well as all children, and help to get the children earlier that need a little bit of demonstration of what kindness is and respect and how to get along with their peers and work with their peers and things like that. But it's an ongoing process, and we'll just need to continue to work on it together. So we appreciate everybody coming out tonight and participating. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. We have no old business to conduct this evening. Our first item of new business is the adoption of this board's 2020 legislative program and the approval of the legislative response team members and our legislative representative for the 2020 Maryland legislative session. By board policy, each year, we discuss our legislative program. We did that earlier at a work session, and we have some core values that we have established that we will be voting to accept this evening. Those core values are adequate and equitable local and state funding, local control, and mandates should be limited and fully funded by the state. We've identified as our legislative priority this year to support the Urban Improvement Project Partnership, which is comprised of the Washington County Delegation, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, the City of Hagerstown, Washington County Board of Education, the University System of Maryland at Hagerstown, and the Maryland Theater. We are supporting them in their efforts to obtain state funding for our project. We have several things on our legislative watch list. We're watching very carefully what's coming out of the Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education, which is the Kerwin Commission. Also, we're watching carefully what's coming out of the NOT Commission, the Interagency Commission on School Construction, implementation of the recommendations of the 21st Century School Facilities. We have an interest in keeping an eye on any legislation that would deal with free and appropriate education with regard to the burden of proof, making any changes to that. Also, any legislation that would deal with the transfer of pension costs or any changes to the authority of the Public School Labor Relations Board. So that, in essence, is our legislative program. At our work session, it was determined that according to policy, the board president serves as a member of the legislative response team, and up to 2 other members of the board. Mr. Stan Stauffer, board vice president, has volunteered to serve on the legislative response team, as has Mr. Peter Bickford, board member. Dr. Boyd Michael, our superintendent, would serve on the team. Our chief legal counsel, Mr. Anthony Trotta, and our legislative representative, who currently is Mrs. Ardith Cade. So at this time, I would entertain a motion.
Take these motions.
One at a time.
3 separate.
One at a time, please.
One at a time. Madam President, I move to approve the Washington County Board of Education's legislative program for the 2020 Maryland legislative session as discussed at the work session on October the 1st, 2019, and the executive summary.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gesford. Any discussion? All those in favor of Mr. Stauffer's motion? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs.
Madam President, I move to approve the appointments to the legislative response team.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any discussion? Okay. The vote is on Mr. Stauffer's motion to approve the appointments to the legislative response team. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs.
Madam President, I move to approve the appointment of Mrs. Cade as the Washington County Board of Education's legislative representative.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Any discussion? Okay, the vote is on Mr. Stauffer's motion to appoint Mrs. Cade as our legislative representative in Annapolis. Okay, 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs. Thank you. The next item of new business is our consent agenda. Mr. Bakedall.
Good evening, President Williams, board members, Dr. Michael. Tonight, I have 12 items for your review. The Purchasing Review Committee reviewed these items and is recommending approval, and staff is available if you have any additional questions.
Rachel. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements for school buses to American Bus Sales and Service at a total cost of $1,469,569, plus additional options as determined by the department at the unit prices listed. Disposition of up to 20 school buses, bulk motor oil and fluids, renewal to Holcim Oil Corporation at the unit prices listed. Unit price contract for earthworks, renewal to Advantage Landscape and Construction, Huntsberry Brothers, Jernigan's Environmental Services, Shades of Green Landscaping, Stevens Excavating, and Tri-State Fencing at the unit prices listed. Security equipment and service renewal to Atlantic Security System at the unit prices listed. Flooring renewal to Carpet Gallery and Dorsey Brothers at the unit prices listed. Microsoft Premier Support Services renewal to CDWG at a cost of $83,280.11. Tenable.io Vulnerability Management Software to CDWG at a cost of $91,000. Security Information and Event Management Software to CDWG at a cost of $77,370. Goal Book Toolkits for Staff to Enome Incorporated at a cost of $91,250. Fleet Card Program to Wex Bank at an approximate annual cost for fuel of $150,000. And HVAC Annual Preventative Program to Dakin Applied at a 3-year total cost of $265,000, $265,387.
Thank you, Mr. Beckford. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any discussion, any questions for Mr. Bakewell?
Did you time out buying school buses for School Bus Safety Week?
I couldn't have planned it that well, no.
No questions.
No questions? Anyone else? Mrs. Fisher?
I would like to point out, since there are still members here of the CPAC committee, that one of the items on here, materials of instruction, gold book, toolkits for staff, this purchase is actually for all elementary teachers and secondary case managers, Title I and special education departments. It is a $91,000 purchase for those students, their teachers.
Any other discussion, any other questions? And we will move to the vote on, did we have a second? Who second, who made, oh, you did? Okay, thank you. I usually write that down and I missed it. So we'll move to the vote on Mr. Bickford's motion for approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs. Thank you, Mr. Bakewell.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is a donation. Good evening, Dr. Akers.
Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Michael. I'm here on behalf of Cascade Elementary School to request permission to accept the generous donation of a new sign valued at $6,045 from the Cascade Elementary School PTA. This would be a new school sign.
Thank you, Dr. Akers. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve a donation of a school sign valued at $6,045 from Cascade Elementary School PTA to Cascade Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions or discussion? No, then we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve a donation from Cascade Elementary School PTA to Cascade Elementary School, a gift of a school sign. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 votes in the affirmative, and the student member concurs. Thank you, Dr. Akers.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is an amendment, the first amendment to an employment contract between the Board of Education and Dr. Boyd J. Michael III, who is our superintendent. In September, the board conducted its annual evaluation of our superintendent, and at that time, we discussed an increase in the superintendent's salary as well as an increase in the superintendent's travel expenses account. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve this First Amendment to Dr. Michael's contract with the Board of Education.
Madam President, I move to approve the First Amendment to employment contract between the Board of Education of Washington County and Dr. Boyd J. Michael III.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any discussion? I would just like to say that this is, and Dr. Michael has been serving us as superintendent for 2 years now. This is his first increase in salary. His salary is being increased 3%, and his travel expenses are being increased by $5,000. So I would say that is well-deserved, and I thank you very much for your service. It's a pleasure to work with you, and it's a pleasure to be able to compensate you with this raise.
Thank you. Thank the board members.
Are we ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs. Okay, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Michael, back to you.
Couple things tonight. We have our summer school report, so I ask that Dr. Akers and Dr. Hanks come forward. Fill us in a little bit of what happened this summer at summer school, their summer reading efforts.
Good evening, President and Board and Dr. Michael. We're here tonight to share just kind of a recap of the events that happened over the summer, very similar to last summer with much success. We didn't want to change tracks, just continue the momentum. So I want to just kind of give a summary of outside of the summer school experiences that Dr. Akers will kind of share about what happened on our campuses. We had begun last year an effort to provide resources to students through our digital technology and through community resources. And so we once again offered iPad checkouts that students could take iPads home with them over the summer. We totaled 1,239 devices were signed out to students this summer. Including and through that, we have the Rail Library program, and I'm coupling that because both that gives students the ability to check out books in their local library, to check out books at the library, the bookmobile that goes around following our meal truck. They are able to use their rail card, which is their student ID number for WCPS, to check out books. This eliminates the no library card issue or having to go physically to a library to sign out a book. They use their number and then can take the books. It also gives them access to all the digital resources of our public libraries, which means that through their iPad and the links that we've provided to them, they can access all the same digital material available at the public library as well as our school system, giving them tens of thousands of text and resources to access using that Rail program. There were 597 students that accessed using their Rail number, and they checked out 2,042 items. We have a few digital magazines, ebooks available as well that are subscriptions that we purchase. Those bring on the iPad magazines to life. The iPad literally turns into a magazine, and they turn the pages. They even make the sound of turning pages. But that gives some topics of interest for students that are enjoy more of the informational text. They get access to National Geographic and some sporting magazines for students, hunting, anything they can imagine as aligned there. So that gives those options to them. In addition, we have the iParent portal. That iParent portal gives parents and students access to a simple document that tells them how to get all of these tons of resources. They can do it by school. Some of our schools purchase additional materials, PTAs or PTOs, and so they can go to their direct link for their schools and get the password information they need. We have summer learning opportunities that also includes apps that we've kind of previewed and put on there that'll help them continue their learning. We had 197 visits to the summer learning site. We had 129 visits to the video modules. And that's exciting because with the digital technology coming out, we have a lot of parents and even students who aren't sure how to use the technology. How do I use Google? How do I use these things? There's quick tutorials that they can go online and learn. And interestingly, 129 people accessed those video tutorials over the summer. So that was some excitement. And I'll let Dr. Akers share what was happening on our school campuses. Oh, let me add one more additional one, Dr. Akers. There was a STEM camp I wanted to add that was a culmination of 76 of our 9th grade students. It was held at the outdoor school, and it combined robotics, environmental science, forensic, archery, and mathematics. This was, I think, a second year for that as well. Now it's your turn.
At the elementary level, Title I schools held summer school for 16 days, and all other elementary schools had summer school for 12 days. The instruction focused on literacy and math with goals of reducing summer learning loss and increasing student readiness for the 2019-2020 school year. All students were provided breakfast and lunch, and Title I schools were provided bus service. 1,056 students attended with an attendance rate of 78.3%. Some of our elementary schools offered additional summer programs that primarily focused on reading, and Fountaindale Elementary School held a STEM camp. Most of our elementary schools held camps to help pre-kindergarten and kindergarten students adjust to coming to school for the first time. This was the second year of holding a centralized middle school summer school. The program ran for 16 days and focused on literacy and math, and also offered a variety of elective classes. 160 students attended with an attendance rate of 78.6%. Students were provided with breakfast and lunch, and transportation was provided. High school summer school was held at the Washington County Technical High School and Antietam Academy, and we had satellite locations at Boonesboro High School and North Hagerstown High School. The high school courses ran for 19 days. Students were provided with breakfast and lunch, and transportation was provided. This year we had 390 students earn credit in traditional courses, and 251 students earn credit in blended courses. The success rates for students earning credit were close at 71% for traditional courses and 70% for blended courses. We provided 20 different high school courses. Our highest enrollment was 113 students in PE1, and 28 students graduated as a result of passing a required course during summer school. And with that, we thank you for the opportunity to update you on our 2019 summer programs.
Any questions for Dr. Akers or Mrs. Hank? Yes.
Didn't high school, summer school used to run for 6 weeks years ago?
For as long as I can remember, it's been 5 weeks. Even when I taught it, it was 5 weeks, and that's been a few years. But it may have been 6 at some point.
You said it was, what, 19 days this year?
It's, yeah, because of probably what you might remember is we used to still have 5-day weeks in the summer. So it would go 20, if it was 5 weeks, it'd be 25 days, and now it's 19 days because we only have it Monday through Thursday.
I could have sworn when I taught it one time, it was 6 weeks back in the early 90s.
And it may have been, but as I
I'm getting
recall.
old, so,
Yeah. But they were 5-day weeks.
Takes up an extra hour a day too, or something like that.
I don't
It runs
know.
for a pretty extended time. Dr. Hanks, I know a lot of our summer is electronic resources, and we had somebody mention maybe that the majority of our reading resources are electronic, and I've seen a lot of our young students be able to navigate and select text and find things of interest electronically, but also I want to dispel the myth that we don't have books, because every place I go, independent reading today at a school I visited, I was probably in 20, 25 classrooms. It was a large elementary school, and I saw books everywhere, and children during independent reading time reading books, graphic novels, chapter books, as they'll describe them, things like that. Can you kind of confirm that for us, or just share a little bit about that, maybe?
Well, I'll say
Briefly.
it's partly due to the generosity of the board and the Striving Readers Grant. We have probably put close to $800,000 into actual physical books in our classrooms, including resources for the teachers for the read aloud and shared reading, books that are aligned to our modules, but also classroom libraries, and most recently our book rooms that allow teachers to pull out books that are aligned to where students are reading. While the digital books offer us the opportunity to provide thousands of books to students who may not have vast libraries in their homes, that really is an advantage that we're giving our students. So being able to navigate digitally opens up a whole lot more opportunities for them to access text. But we are also sending books home. Our pre-K effort to send for second year 50 books home to every pre-K child enrolled in our program. Hopefully is sending a clear message, especially the first steps into school, of how important it is to actually have books in your hands and reading. I still do believe that a lot of our students prefer the actual book, but we can accommodate any type of preference for reading.
Thank you.
Dr. Hanks, any anecdotal feedback from parents or students, teachers with regard to the elementary school program?
Yes, so we had a lot of some late enrollees to pre-K, which we celebrate, and we accept them very late, and within about 24 hours, we're getting requests for, I have 3 more students that need books. Our teachers, I cannot commend them enough. So many of them, actually, some of them gift wrapped the boxes. We had a program at Funkstown that invited parents or buddies in to come read with the students where they receive the books. But if you follow us on Twitter, that week that the books were all going home, it was all over Twitter, parents posting pictures, reading with their students, with their children, and teachers just sharing the excitement. I had a teacher actually tell us tonight, we had a professional development who said that she pulled out a book to read aloud, and the kids got excited because it was one of the books in their boxes that they got at home. So it has been absolutely phenomenal. One of my favorite parts of the grant that we had to be able to provide that to students. I had another parent had shared with a teacher who shared with us that they could not engage their child in books previously, not doing a lot of verbal yet, and the books, they just poured over them every night. They're piling books on and climbing on the parent's lap. It said this was the first time we were able to engage in text because, and it is based on research, that children with at least 50 books in their homes by the time they turn 5 are more likely to achieve grade level reading by 3rd grade. So that's the intent of that program.
Thank you, Dr. Akers. Any other questions? Thank you both.
Our next report, we want to provide just a real brief update on some summer project work. Staff's worked very hard this summer. Of course, summers are very short, and we try to cram a lot of work in during that short amount of time. So, Leslie, you can come up to the table too, if you want. Got a great team that works on our summer projects, and I'll just turn it over to Mr. Prue and his team.
Thank you, Dr. Michael, members of the board. With me this evening, to my left, members of the facility committee have met Leslie Winkler, but she is the newest member of our facilities planning team, is one of our project managers, so she managed several of the projects that we'll be talking about this evening. I think you've all met Mr. Otto, who's also a project manager, and Mr. Mills, who's director of maintenance. So we're going to give you a quick overview, as Dr. Michael mentioned, on some of the summer projects we created and conducted this summer from the facilities planning development side. In terms of our major projects, we did 14 capital projects at 14 different schools. On the maintenance and operations side, we conducted 113 projects. The numbers of schools is not listed there because you can't say we probably did not touch every school in some way, in some manner this summer. small project, large project. We had staff in all of the schools. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Otto, and he'll take you through some of the projects.
Thank you, Mr. Prue. This first slide showcases some of the security improvements we did this summer. Security was a big focus again. On the left is the new visitor entrance at South Hagerstown High School. In the middle is the new vestibule at Tech High. And on the right is Clear Spring High. We constructed a new security vestibule there as well. We had a major systemic project this summer. It was replacing the entire roof at Boonesboro Elementary School. You can see tear-off operations going on the left and the new TPO membrane on the right. We also replaced the bridge near the athletic fields at Smithsburg High School. You can see various stages of the project here. The previous piping was undersized, and the replacement had a new box culvert and new head walls, and it turned into a really nice end product there. We also had a portable classroom relocation. We took 2 portable classrooms from Eastern Elementary School and 1 from Sharpsburg Elementary School, and we placed them in the back of Salem Avenue Elementary School. They're being used as 4th grade classrooms, and we built the associated ramps and decking and connected all utilities to make those active before the first day of school.
And I believe the reason for those portables going there was actually to create space for pre-K. So we need additional space in Salem Avenue to have their own pre-K there within the building. So the portables are being used by 4th grade students, but it's actually creating space for our pre-K programs.
Thank you. This is a paving project we did at the outdoor school. We had some issues with some runoff that causing freezing issues in the wintertime when the students were up there, and we replaced the drive and redid the grading. That was one project of 13 projects we did with concrete and macadam. Next slide shows 2 flooring projects. One we did at Northern Middle on the left. The one on the right is at Clear Spring High School. Those are 2 projects of 125,000 square feet of flooring that we replaced this summer.
And you'll note in the Clear Spring High School photo, we were able to preserve the red dot.
Yeah.
The red circle still exists and is alive and well at Clear Spring.
The final slide shows 2 projects where we had completed some painting projects. The one on the left is Northern Middle's Media Center. That's one of 3 media centers that we had painted and dressed up a little bit. And the slide on the right is the ceiling at the auditorium at North Hagerstown.
This is just a sampling of some of the projects. You know, staff is grateful for the resources that the board provides. As you know, as we've discussed through the EFMP and through the CIP process, our schools are aging. So any investment we can make into maintaining the infrastructure of our schools is beneficial because we really don't know what that life cycle looks like long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just real quick, can you back up one to the flooring? What type of flooring did we put down? Just to refresh my memory. You guys
It's
told
vinyl
us
composite tile, VCT.
Composite, okay.
At-
Looks good.
At Clear
Mills,
Spring.
you've moved to a lot of that because of allergies,
Correct.
sanitation, things like that. We're putting a lot more
It's-
tile
it's a-
down and carpet.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to keep tile cleaner than
Okay.
carpet. Carpet does, harbor a lot of allergens, so, and it's easier to clean and it shines up nice too.
Absolutely. Looks
Mr.
good.
Fisher, I don't know if you've been in that building, but the corner that you see right here on the the right-hand picture, left-hand corner, I think that's the corner of the new vestibule there at
It is.
It is.
Clear Spring High School. So it's not quite that gigantic open area there. Now you actually walk in and you're in the new vestibule, secure vestibule.
The vestibule is the back half of the circle. So we built off of that circular office. So the SRO is in one side and the attendance secretary is in the other.
Cool.
At Clear Spring High School. Yeah.
Looks good.
Staff has figured out quite a few complicated, configurations, how we end up coming up with the secure vestibules. It's been pretty creative. We've lost some classrooms here and there where we've had to kind of go through a classroom to make that happen, but most places it's been very successful and made a lot of progress.
The other thing, Leslie was able to bring a project to closure at North High. That was an undertaking. Did you want to say a few words about that?
About the tower?
Yeah.
It turned out beautifully, I think. We're working on the fence right now, but the tower is completed, and I think it is a really nice addition to North a marker for the stadium, and unless you knew it, I don't think you'd be able to tell it's a cell phone tower.
Yeah, I've actually heard some positive comments. What a nice sign you put up there at North High.
I'm here too, yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah, so-
Have they added any, are they carrying any more than what they were originally? Do you know
I
off the top of your
believe we're
head?
at 3 carriers off the top of my head. I want to say it's 3. It's definitely 2, but I think the 3rd is signed on. And as Leslie indicated, staff was not happy with the construction of the fencing. So we've been working with Milestone and their construction contractor to put a better looking fence up and actually reconstruct something of I don't want to call it real wood, but I mean, it was not a grade that we felt was a quality to be on one of our campuses. So we've asked them to redo it, and they've respectfully done it.
Great. Good.
I want to thank staff for all the hard work and getting everything done they got done this summer. And they will have a lot of punch lists and gather up and fix up and are already gearing up for next summer. So you'll be seeing projects come forward here shortly after the winter break for board approval for bids. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. A little comment. I don't know why you kept the red circle at Clear Spring High School, but I, of course, was there the first day Clear Spring opened its doors. And then it was a blue carpet with a red circle in the middle. When the kids came in off the school bus, they came in, they looked at that red circle, and all of a sudden, they made a circle around the red circle and played duck, duck, goose.
Well, it is lure now, and I think it would have been sacrificial to take it out. So we opted to keep the peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next part of our report will be Dr. Pugh and the ESSA plan. Does not require board approval at this point, but we do want to provide an update to the board. And Dr. Pugh and all of her staff members have put a lot of work into the plan. The consolidated version, I think as we call it, is now close to 500 pages with all the appendices and things. So I'll let Dr. Pugh just briefly share a little bit about what's in the plan.
Thank you, Dr. Michael. Good evening, President Williams and members of the board. It's my pleasure to share with you the new local Every Student Succeeds Act Consolidated Strategic Plan. I've been trained to say that. It's much longer than the master plan, but if you remember, back in 2002, the Maryland General Assembly enacted the Bridge to Excellence in Public Schools Act, which required a Bridge to Excellence master plan. This was for accountability purposes, and if you remember, back then, the final documents were well over 800 pages. And then in 2015, the Elementary and Secondary Act was reauthorized as the Every Student Succeeds Act. And just this year, the local ESSA Consolidated Strategic Plan replaces that Bridge to Excellence master plan for the purposes of accountability, reporting, and school improvement. In this plan, there is still an executive summary. There's a finance section. The consolidated plan requires a needs assessment and 2 to 3 areas of focus. It also includes all of the federal and state grant applications, including fine arts and Titles 1 through 4. The limited executive summary is required to be no more than 5 pages, and you can't play with margins or font size. Also included in the plan with the new equity policy being created at the state level and then one to be done locally, it is required to have equity in the policy, or the policy in the actual plan. The needs assessment and the strategic plan itself has to be designed to improve achievement gaps among the groups that have disaggregated data gaps. So all schools and school districts, regardless of their diversity factors or lack thereof, are required to have their equity plan so that all students and all student groups have equitable access to the rigor, resources, and supports needed. There is in the plan consideration for your different student groups, specifically requiring the student groups that we are reporting on, both race and ethnicity, and then in service groups, students who receive special services. To be added later would be the gifted and talented students as well. But looking at the disparities between how students perform on our state assessments in reading and mathematics is how you identify the student groups, and then creating goals and objectives with specific evidence-based strategies for how to improve the performance of those subgroups. For Washington County, this summer, teachers worked together on writing sample learning plans with aligned resources and assessments, along with a pacing, suggested timing. And one of the things they were challenged with was that in doing a plan like that, absent students and understanding what the students might look like or need those in your classroom, we were only able to do a basic plan, an outline of what a good learning plan would be. But this frees teachers up to be able to focus on really planning for their own students now. They don't have to do the searching for resources. They can go in, follow a model plan that was created by teachers based on the outcomes that we hope for our students, and really start thinking about each individual student's strengths, the gaps, their own interests, opportunities, and then planning specifically for those who needed additional support and enrichment. The teacher's knowledge of those students, along with the model learning plans, create a very rich learning plan. The equity lens that we use when we're asking teachers to plan includes these components, and you'll notice that it's designed to help catch a variety of needs of students. For example, what's going to be engaging and what's of interest to students. We use the Universal Design for Learning strategies. How are we going to manage and transition students based on what their needs are and who's in my classroom? What do I need to build in with scaffolding and supports? How will I ensure that I'm providing services for my students who are advanced, students who are gifted and need a different way of representing the information, as well as specially designed instruction for my students with disabilities that is individualized for the students, and English learner supports, and then understanding the learner through their abilities, a strengths-based and asset-based. So in the needs assessment, what the teams had to do was to identify and reflect on what strengths we had, what challenges we had with different populations, in order to identify prioritized needs. So we're measured and accountable for a number of measures, which I'll share later, but really what they're asking you to do is focus on two to three areas that you know you need to work on so that it's reality and it can be done and that all efforts are aligned. So once you identify those focus areas, the federal, state, and local funding needs to contain evidence-based strategies. So as you're looking at specific activities that you would do, you need to provide the research, at least 2 evidence-based, meaning they have been proven to be effective, 2 evidence-based practices and resources for the activities that you're choosing to request federal funding for. And then figuring out how, rather than writing all of your Title grant funds separately, Title I is only for Title I schools, and Title II is only professional learning, and Title III is English learners, that you really look at all of those together and you think about bigger actions that need to occur, and you braid that funding with local funding. So you're using Title I funding and professional learning funding and Title IV materials funding to accomplish a similar or specific purpose. And so it's much more complicated for our finance office, who gets requests to purchase things that have funds that are mixed from titles, but that is a way that the state is saying you can really strategically use your funding. Our needs assessment, there isn't an actual formal needs assessment tool, which we've asked for and hopefully will have been created by the time we are doing this again next year. But what we did was get information from all of our stakeholders. So we started at the very last day of school getting information from our teachers about both our curriculum and our assessments and the information that they shared about what they felt they needed, all the way through the summer meetings where we had school improvement teams come together and really analyze their data. And then we met, Dr. Michael met, and the team met with every principal from every school and went through math and ELA data by grade and by score proficiencies. We met with all of the content teams to do the same thing for each school, met with the special groups, Title I, special education, gifted and talented and English learners, to share their data with them and get their opinions about next steps. We shared publicly the information with the board on September 3rd, and then we continue to analyze as we get more information. We get comparatives with other districts, and then we're working with specific school teams to create their action plans based on their data on how students are performing, what is it that they're doing specifically at the school. We continue to analyze the data, looking at strands and clusters of standards where we have work to do. These areas on the left of the slide show the 5 different areas where you could have chosen a focus. So academic achievement in reading, English language arts, and math in elementary, middle, and high. Student growth in elementary and middle. Progress in achieving our English language proficiency, so that's our English learners' graduation rate, and then readiness for post-secondary success. And finally, school quality and student success. So we looked at where we fell in all of those ranges with all of those categories with the data, with Dr. Michael's famous term smushed, between grades 3 through 8 and grade 10. So the areas that we chose to focus that are our most apparent need would be in reading and mathematics. The data is supposed to be used from 2017-18 in order to create this baseline. So throughout the plan, you'll see a reference to what our data were in 2017-18, what they were this year, and then we were setting goals for next year. The plan itself comes with a chart like this. You have word limits, 500 words to talk about what your root cause analysis was, 500 words to talk about your needs assessment and what your priority area is, and then you go into this focus area detail where you really strategically lay out your goals, objectives, timeline, strategies, your funding sources, and then how will you evaluate it? The far column asks, how will you evaluate the effectiveness of the intervention or strategy, and describe how you will use an equity lens in your evaluation. So meaning, how will this impact every group that we're really working towards helping with achievement? So finally, through all of that work, the team identified academic achievement in mathematics as our area of focus number 1. And the 3 main areas are not new to our teachers. They're not brand new to our district, but they're areas that we know we need to continue to improve. So excellent initial instruction is the first area in mathematics, making sure our teachers understand the standards and our students have access to them. Using the formative assessment process to give feedback to students, and then having a systemic response when students either struggle to learn or who are meeting higher level standards. And so our theory of action is if we do those things, our subgroups as well as our all groups will improve. Looks very familiar. The second area of focus is academic achievement in reading English language arts with the very same language except in English. So we do believe that excellent initial instruction combined with analyzing data and responding when you see gaps in student learning is the way to go. It is excellent Tier 1 instruction. And so all of our strategies and requests for funding are aligned with that. So today, this consolidated plan is not 800 pages, it's 480. And it was submitted to MSDE for approval as a draft. This is the first time that they've had this type of plan, so it will be peer reviewed, and we will get feedback on each section of it. And then the team will reconvene and incorporate feedback and respond to the feedback. We're hopeful to get that feedback and be able to resubmit. The deadline is November 15th to have the final submitted. So at this point, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Thank the team for all their work in pulling this together.
What is McKinney-Vento?
McKinley-Vento is the legislation that provided supports and funds for students who are homeless or students who are in transition.
Students that are homeless and they get to stay in their home school
We
instead of
provide.
their next school that
I
they
wasn't
do
familiar
with that
with
area.
the term. I know what you're talking about, but I didn't know the term.
Okay, well, if you would like to read it, I will make sure to provide a copy.
The last part of my report, if we have our video queued up, Ms. Aaron, are we ready? It's an apprenticeship video that we're sharing to promote our apprenticeship program. So I wanted the board to see it before they started seeing that or hearing this out on the street. Be the last part of my report. Thank you.
There had been some talk about apprenticeship programs here for well over a year.
We did not know what to expect in an apprenticeship program like this.
They get to come out here and learn a job skill that they may not have even known existed prior to this apprenticeship.
They come equipped with the passion and the energy to kind of break off and start a career.
I was a little apprehensive at first, about some younger guys coming in to work in the shop, They stepped right in and handled the fast-paced environment really well.
In the past, when I came out of high school, I participated in an apprenticeship program and knew its value and what it added to young and fresh people trying to get out in industry and get a taste of what it's like in the real world.
It's a great opportunity for them to kind of learn, have real experiences working on real equipment, kind of learn the ins and outs of the industry.
I feel as this is preparing me for my future, especially because I'm in this program as an apprenticeship. Coming here full-time, I'll just be able to walk in and know exactly what I'm working on.
Favorite part about the apprenticeship program is working with my hands and doing what I love. I have a passion for seeing how things work.
It's a great opportunity to open your eyes into what's coming into the industry to help you shape your business. These people add a lot of value. I mean, they are our future.
That's a huge benefit for a company, and for us, even if we don't stay at the job, it's real-world experience for our resume to help us out in the world.
Every single one of those students, they're here because they want to be here.
I mean, we've received outstanding talent from the high schools, people that go over and beyond.
There's a lot of great folks out there that are willing to learn, ready to work, and it's a great way to kind of set somebody on a long career path where they can be very successful and benefit a company. So I would highly encourage it.
We saw opportunity to help him not only professionally here, but to help set his future.
I would tell other local businesses trying to start an apprenticeship program that to go for it. It's working out really well for us, and we're really pleased with their performance and how they've done in the shop.
I always say I got the best job in the apprenticeship program because I love my job. I think it's really the best decision I've made in my high school career so far.
We take ownership on the fact that we are helping shape the future for this individual.
I personally would like to see this program continue. The better we treat it, the better it is for our future and our people.
So our CTE staff worked in cooperation with some others to put this together, and we use this to promote our apprenticeship program with other employers. Getting a lot of good feedback on that, and really want to thank staff for their efforts with this. That concludes my remarks this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Michael. At this time, we'll move to personnel action. Good evening, Dr. Bishop.
Good evening, Mrs. Williams, Dr. Michael, and board members. As we discussed earlier in closed session, there are several staff changes for your review. So at this time, I would like to ask for your approval of today's personnel actions.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Madam President, excuse me, I move for approval of the personnel actions that were presented to us earlier today.
Any questions, any discussion? We'll move to the vote. Mr. Cardinal's motion. Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Bishop. Okay, we'll move to reports to the board, and we'll begin with our board member committee reports. Would you like to begin down there, Mr. Mackley?
Today.
Mrs. Murray?
The Curriculum and Instruction Committee will meet on Tuesday, October 22nd at 4 p.m. in the board conference room.
Finance Committee meets Tuesday, October 29th in the Operations Conference Room. That starts at 8 a.m.
Facilities Committee will be meeting on the 22nd of October, and the site will be downtown.
Policy Committee's not met since our last business meeting, but we will be meeting on the 29th at 9:15.
HR will meet at the end of November. At this time, it will be in the board conference room, subject to change.
Okay, we'll move to miscellaneous business, a consideration of our future agenda items. You should have a future agenda items list included in your packet. Takes us through to May. And coming up in November, we have new teacher report, SAT and ACT data report, a report on Maryland Integrated Science Assessment data. That's a first, isn't it? Isn't that the first we'll be getting that?
First, we're hearing about this year's data we've had for
Right.
one other year.
Oh, I was thinking this was the first year for that. We have a technology update coming up on November 5th. We have a safety report, an equity update, kindergarten readiness assessment update in January, and we have our regularly scheduled legislative briefings for the 2020 legislative session. So if you have any requests for agenda items, please let a member of the Agenda Planning Committee know so we can get your agenda items on the agenda. We'll move to board member comments. Mr. Ridenour, would you like to begin?
Nothing at this time, Madam President.
Thank you. Mrs. Fisher?
Likewise, I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Gessner?
Nothing.
Mr. Stauffer?
Mr. Bickford talked about this earlier, but we spent 3 days, 2.5, I guess, really, at the Maryland Association of Boards of Education Conference in Annapolis, and some big topic items, discipline, bullying, equity, some big items, and of course, Kerwin, omnipresent. So we'll see what comes out of that, and I think the showcase of bands is this evening at South.
Correct.
That's where I'll be headed then.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Mr. Bickford?
I just want to say we're honored to have a member of royalty on the dais with us. Congratulations for winning Homecoming King.
Congratulations. I didn't know that. King Christopher.
What do we call him? Your Highness?
Royal Highness.
Your Royal Highness.
Royal Highness. Mrs. Murray?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Mackley?
Mr. Bickford just pointed on it. I had a really good homecoming weekend, and hopefully all the other students around the county had good homecomings, and they will this weekend for the ones who haven't had it yet. That's all I got.
Thank you. I have no comments, so if there's nothing further, we'll adjourn.